Greetings, people. It's Mr. Pull the Trigger yet again on another episode of the Enlightenment series. So on this chapter is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a series of different episodes. I know most of you have a question. I don't think most of you do have that question, but only a few intellects. They have an idea. They have this sixth sense that is always driving them to try to understand how these charlatans afford the lifestyles that they are living, how these charlatans afford the jets that they are buying, the helicopters, the huge empires that they've built for themselves. Where are they getting that money from? Is this money coming from tithes, offerings, and your seeds that you part with in your appreciation to the falsehood that they are teaching you? This is a very big question, but those ones that are inside these shrines, they don't care much to know about these things. They don't really understand because they are not within that scope of mind that allows them to think independently. They are bound, they are within a box, and they are being controlled. How to think, how to believe, how to react, and how to behave. So there are some things that they overlook. Things like, how come the pastor is buying jets? How come the pastor is living lavishly? How come the pastor is being rated to be one of the richest in the world? In the world, with billions and billions of nairas and dollars in their bank accounts. Where's all that money coming from? What's the relationship between the church and the money? Where's the money coming from and where's the money going? The entire syndicate. How does it operate? These are far-fetched things that we are now about to get into. To those of you who thought that these charlatans cannot move, or your depots, Adebayos, your big sharks, your Chris Oyakilomes, if you thought they don't move, this time around, when we touch their money, when we expose the financial syndicate within these churches, then you will see. Because this is the part that is very sensitive. And I've deliberately delayed this part of the exposure because it's very sensitive and it's an entire series on its own, which I need everyone to pay attention to. Not just everyone, but to also invite responsible authorities to start now beaming light on the financial statements of these churches. As a matter of fact, why should these churches not be regulated? Oh, they're non-profit organizations. They're not. Have you seen their bank statements, their financial statements? These churches are making profit more than business institutions in the countries. And they are exempted. They are tax exempted. They pay no tax. They are not controlled, they are not monitored, they are not regulated, and they are not taxed. Yet they are making billions and billions in revenue. Where is this money going? And where is some of this money coming from? Is it possible that we can put pressure on our government authorities, on our leaders, to beam light on their finances so that they can put them in the public so that people can know? What's this money being used for? Where's this money going? What is their current financial status? Can these records be put on in public? There's nothing wrong about being transparent. They are non-governmental organizations, aren't they? They are registered as non-governmental organizations, aren't they? They're not making profits, are they? So there shouldn't be any problem with them being transparent to a point whereby their finances can be audited. Why should they not be audited? And we also need to establish the relationship between the politicians and these charlatans and these leaders of these shrines. How is this business of the church being administered? Especially the financial aspect of it. You have never thought about it. Not because you don't care about it, but they've made it seem like it's not important. And have you noticed that 99.999% of their sermons, they are centered on money. They reinforce the issue of paying tithes more than anything, more than your spiritual life, more than repentance, more than the gospel. They can even tell you that you will not go to heaven. You are robbing God if you're not paying tithe. They become very aggressive when you touch their money. But now that's the subject that we are about to get into. And I need to make you people understand, when you are done with these episodes of these financial syndicates within these churches, maybe you will come to the party. Maybe you will start understanding. Because what is making most of you ignorant is, and what keeps most of you giving money to these shrines, because you don't know what's happening. You have no clue whatsoever. As I speak right now, you are so blank. You'll be like, no, God has blessed them. How has God blessed them? He has blessed them with what? No, they've been in ministry for a long time. God is blessing them with money, with all this money. Has it been accounted for? Has it been declared anyway? The IRS, especially in Nigeria. Let's look at Nigeria. Have they thought about getting involved in understanding the logistics, the finances of these churches? Have they ever? Do you know they can't do it? The only way that they can do it is if we get them to do it. That's when you realize that Nigeria is in shambles right now, not because of politicians. Politicians are doing their own, they are messing up on their own, but churches are the worst. The current status of the nation of Nigeria right now is going down the drain because of churches. Yeah, you can be defensive for now because you don't know what you're about to get into. But I want you to open your heart and understand, and even understanding without being defensive, because you don't know these things. There's no way you can know these things. Impossible. None of you knows the things that we're about to get into now. And these are the things that will shake them. It will shake them. Shake them. Have you ever seen a rat being shaken by a dog? When a dog is biting a rat and it's shaking it left, right, and center. That's what is going to happen to them now. And they'll do everything to try to prevent this information from coming out. But it's going to come out anyway. And we have to put our governments into question. The IRS has to be put into question. Why can't they bring out their finances to the public so that the public can know where the money is coming from? Is it only coming from offerings and tithes? It's not. And when it comes, where is it going? Have you ever questioned why all of these shrines in Nigeria, they all have microfinance banks? What are those banks being used for? Those microfinance banks, what are they for? Do you know? Do you wish to know? Well, they don't call me Mr. Pull the Trigger for nothing. So I'm going to give you an introduction to the accountant. We will refer to him as the accountant. I'll mask his voice. I cannot afford to have his voice be known. Because once they know this accountant, they'll come out, they'll go after him. And they'll take him out. Same time, without compromise. So we shall refer to him as the accountant. And the accountant will be sharing us. He will be sharing with us more insight and more information about this financial syndicate. About what happens behind the scenes, things that you do not know. Now let's touch the untouchables. If you thought we were touching the untouchables, we're not. Eneshe, where did he get the helicopter? How does he afford all that lifestyle? How are they getting money to buy private jets and all those material things that are expensive? How is it happening? I'm just, the mansions, the luxurious cars, the billions. People. So let's have a brief conversation. Let me introduce the accountant to you so that he can give you an insight as to the things that we'll be looking into, things that we'll be talking about. It's going to get hot. And I want you to put on your seat belts and get ready for the Royal Rumble. Because the Rumble is about to get royal and the royal is about to rumble. So let me introduce to you to the accountant.
Hello, Prof. Hex. I want to thank you for what you're doing. I want to thank the Lord for you, for your courage, for your strength, for your tenacity in the face of adversity. Maybe to you, you think you are only fighting or you're fighting the charlatans, as you usually refer to them as vagabonds and 419s, the 419ers, and all of those that you refer to, masquerading themselves as pastors, masquerading themselves as men of God, but they are not. They are not men of God. These people are not of God, I tell you. I would refer to myself as the accountant. That is my name for this particular sensitive information I'm about to share with you. My name is the accountant, and I have worked with a lot of pastors. To people out there, they know them as pastors, but from an insider like me, I don't see them as pastors because of my background and my earlier exposure to the Lord has given me a different understanding of what plays out there. These guys that you are exposing, a lot of them know deep down that they are not of God. They know the power that they are using is not of God. They know what they are doing is diabolic. They know that there is no iota of righteousness in them. They know that their soul have been sold out to the devil, and that is why a lot of them engage in different kinds of ungodly behaviors, because to them it makes no difference to them. They've got the money, and one of the things which they use in renewing their powers is to sleep with young girls. They sleep with young girls, and sometimes out of desperation, and there's a season and there's a time when they are supposed to do that, maybe once in every 7 days. You know what? When devil gives you something, he gives you a condition. For you to continue to use the power of the devil to do what you do, there are conditions definitely attached to them. It is only the blessings of God that comes without any form of condition or criteria, because we are loved and we are favored unconditionally. So these pastors, and I hate to call them pastors, but they are not pastors. They are not of God. They don't work for God. They have a certain, they have a form of godliness, but the power of God is absent in them. They are using the power of the devil, to operate. I have worked with people that are occultic, and they tell me, like, look, the condition they give to these people is within maybe 3 days, depending on where you get the source of your power, you are requested, you are mandated to sleep with somebody. You are mandated to sleep with somebody. In fact, the closer you are in terms of the more frequent you do it, the more power you get. Especially when you do it before going to preach, or when you do it and you mount the pulpit. So that is why when you listen to some of these ladies, they will tell you that some of these pastors they like to do it before they mount the pulpit, supposedly to go bless the people of God. But that is how you actually trigger the demons and the powers that they use. So what you are dealing with is quite sensitive and is quite powerful. And like I've discussed and told you before, that these guys are dangerous, and as you have seen, they are threatening you left, right, and center. But that is not why I have made this call to you. I have made this recording. The reason for this recording is quite different. And the reason for this recording is to bring a bit of understanding and some light to how these pastors are able to afford the private jet and the luxurious lifestyle that they live. You see, a lot of people think they buy these private jets with their tithes and offering. You know, that is complete distraction. That is complete, total distraction. You know, and that was why a lot of them were upset when Apostle Suleiman came out during the lockdown and COVID and announced that he bought his third private jet. A lot of the so-called fathers of faith that have private jets, they were quite upset with him. They were quite upset with him that, are you not aware, knowing fully well that most churches were closed, knowing fully well that the idea of people sending money from their houses and through different applications and mobile apps, making transfers to church account was not as aggressive. The online church was not bringing as much money as you would expect when you are physically present in the church. Why would you come out and announce that you've just bought your third private jet during a lockdown where the whole world was locked down? In fact, the price of crude oil was below zero. So if you say you were in oil and gas business, how come you're able to gather such kind of money to buy a private jet? Or if you claim you're in real estate, people were on lockdown. If you're into mobile, there were no importations except you are into the sales of medical disposables. Those were kind of businesses that were doing well. So they were quite upset that, don't you know that these morons, these so-called morons, they are going to start thinking outside the box? Because see, prophets, what has kept people so low and so down is because the people cannot think outside the box. The people have failed to actually identify their real enemy. A lot of people are wondering, why is it that the best of brains, you know, the best of brains are working with Nigerian government. The best of brains are working with various African governments, but the economies and the formulas and the ideas are not working out for those countries. I know people, for sentimental reasons, are quick to always want to look at the president of a country, but because they are ignorant, the president is just the overall leader of the country, but he relies on technocrats. He relies on experts. When it comes to healthcare, he's got experts that advises him. When it comes to monetary matters, he's got technocrats, people that built all their life, they've lived all their life in that particular sphere. But the idea is that when they gather data and they analyze this data and they come up with a policy for the president to implement and they defend their position, the president look around his cabinet and agrees with them, and those policies are implemented. But the surprising thing is that at the end of the day, it doesn't translate into results in the life of the people. And because politicians are quick to always want to pick on themselves, they will now begin to say, you see what, it's because we are not in power. It's because that guy is not in power. It's because that guy is in power, and that is why you are suffering. Or because that guy doesn't have a school set, that is why you are suffering. They are quick to quickly hide because they know most of the people they lead in this part of the world are people that do not think outside the box. They assume, which is not true, but they assume generally that most people are ignorant, most people don't ask questions in this part of the world, and politicians are having a field day. And the people at the end of the day, there are cycles of election. The next election, they vote in someone into power, somebody else into power. So after about a year or two, they realize again that, look, it appears the former guy was even better than the new guy. You understand? And this guy was like this, was X, Y, and Z, but why is his government like this? He told us this during the campaign. No, there are so many other forces. There are a lot of people. I'm just using Nigeria as an example, but this is common among a lot of African countries. So you'll see that a lot of this problem is due to the fact that people in this part of the world are brainwashed. They are programmed. They are programmed to always want to think that the leader of the country, of course, the leader of the country and administration is to be blamed for things. But the world we live today, we need to get to understand that there is need for people to re-educate themselves. People need to reinvent themselves for them to be able to compete globally, for them to be able to compete in this kind of digital economy. But that is a discussion for another day. The reason why I'm here is to tell you, Prof. X, that due to some of the intelligence that I have and due to what I've experienced myself and what I know from very reliable source, the source of private jet for all of these pastors, I mean all of these pastors, is not your tithe and offering. Some of them, when the heat was on, when Daddy Freeze was still Daddy Freeze, when Daddy Freeze was a heat on them, they came out. One of them came out and said, "Look, guys, I've got businesses I do. I write books. I sell tips. I do other things apart from preaching the gospel." So, but the question is that there are so many other people that are into business like them. If that is what they want to assert and claim is the source of their wealth, but those people cannot even afford a private jet. So it doesn't add up. But I'll tell you what exactly is going on. Now, I can tell you authoritatively that I've got evidences for these things, but this is not the time for evidences. And the reason why I'm sharing this is not to bring anybody down. The purpose why I'm doing this is for people to wake up and understand that they are alone in their struggle, to understand that what suffering you are going through is not just the politicians that are responsible for your predicament. Your so-called papas in the Lord, your so-called GOs, your so-called great men of God, they are walking behind the curtain with politicians to improvise you. They are working behind the scene to ensure that the jobs that will be created in the next 5 years have already been used. The money meant to create jobs in the next 5 years have already been diverted to buy a luxurious jet for today. They come and they tell you, don't worry. You don't need to worry. Just pray and there will be open heavens unto you. But you have been shouting open heavens. You have labored. You have toiled. You have done everything. You have been given instructions. You have followed all the instructions. You have fasted and prayed. But it's still not hardening up. It's still not hardening up. And you're asking yourself, what is going on? Why am I like this in this economy? Should I travel out of the country? You don't even know what you meet outside the country. A lot of people are leaving the country, but when they travel, they realize what is out there. They stay. They don't want to come back. But things are not as easy as people think things are out there as well. So the question is, what is going on? The fact is that these so-called pastors and charlatans, they are not of God, like I've told you before. And what happened is the number one problem in this country, and which is common to a lot of African countries, is corruption. The corruption stings to high heaven. Now, one of those difficult things, one of the biggest problem in fighting corruption in this part of the world is the word democracy. You know, these corrupt people, they call themselves the West, the bloc of the West. They're extremely corrupt. They are more corrupt than African leaders, but they do theirs in a very subtle way. You know, the way they fashion out the so-called rule of law is such that it's not something that fits our kind of lifestyle and we as a people. People always refer to Nigerian constitution to be their problem. I tell you, when the Nigerian constitution is fixed, Nigerians are still going to come up with something else to be the problem, because they've actually not understood what the problem is. The problem will always be changing. And what the problem really is the value system. The value system is broken down. Even if your laws are not perfect, even if there are loopholes in your constitution, when your value system is intact, you will be able to live and be able to dispense governance. But the value system is corrupted. That is why when you gather enough evidence against someone and you take the person to court, the judge wants to become rich overnight, and the judge makes a declaration based on technical ground that he has not found the accused guilty of the crimes that he has been alleged to have committed. And the rule of law says that there are 3 tiers of government. Whatever is declared in court has to be obeyed, and that is what democracy says, and blah 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 and blah blah blah. And among us today, we have so many thieves, so many corrupt thieves. They are walking free today. Don't you know that other people are watching them? There are currently people who are in government who are watching them. What do you expect them to do? They are going into their office to go and steal, because they know that all they need is to hire lawyers, very good lawyers, that can tell a lot of lies, that can make up things, that can go to TV stations and make up different and make issues political and paint all forms of allegations as being haunted. And before you know it, they will begin to whoop public sentiment. A guy that has left school for 5 years and not been able to get a job, the guy will begin to support the sentiment. The guy that have left school for 7 years, instead of him doing a good job, is doing a very underpaid job, will begin to support that sentiment, not knowing that the person he or she is supporting has actually stolen billions that was meant to actually create some opportunities for him when he's out of school. This is the kind of society that we live in. The value system is broken. Even if the judge sentences the person to prison, you've got a medical officer that is going to show up and claim that this patient needs to go abroad for treatment. Yeah, and you say it's all about the morals. It's all about the value system, because everybody is onto themselves. And one thing about people is that they tend to quickly point attention in this part of the quickly point fingers to their government, like as if their government are people from space. They are people from among you. They are from among you. They grew up. Some of them even grew up without slippers. There was one of them that claimed that he grew up without shoes. So these are the kind of people
That is the accountant. I'm going to put a pause on it for now so that you digest, so that you can have a background information of the man that I'm going to be introducing. A background information about the man that is going to be giving us information that was not privy to you. So now you understand, and we will now begin to question. When Jeremiah Omoto comes to the public and says, I'm a billionaire. I'm a billionaire. You poor people, I'm a billionaire.
This man is a billionaire. Don't you hear the name Prophet Jeremiah Omoto Free? Papa J, go and type it. Papa J, talk to me. Papa J, talk to you for where? Money in the bank. Don't you hear money in the bank? Don't you hear money in the bank? You know how many million I spend in a day? Hey, go and ask me. Said, hey. I'm a billionaire.
The questions we should be asking Jeremiah, not just Jeremiah Omoto, it's just Jeremiah is one of the ignorant ones in their clique that is exposing them to the public, to critical thinkers like you and me. I believe you're a critical thinker as well. The questions we should be asking to Mr. Omoto for Fen is, how did you become a billionaire? How did you become a billionaire? Do you have a business registered to your name that you can point to, or any shares that you have bought on the stock market that could have helped you raising the capital or the financial status that you have today? Do you have any other source of income apart from the church financial syndicate? The fish pond that you build right now, that you're saying, oh, this is my business, the capital to build it, do you have a trace of where the funds came from? Maybe people invested into the project. But is it something that can be proven? Your billionaire status, do you know you cannot utter such nonsense in the West, in Europe, to say I'm a billionaire? The moment you utter those words, the IRS will jump into your case. They want to know, how did you make the billion, my brother? How did Jeremiah Omoto become a billionaire? You know, we all know Jeremiah is, come on. He has no any business acumen that we can maybe think that Jeremiah is in some oil, he's an oil shack or something, or he's into he has invested into different portfolios, or he's into different kinds of businesses. No, not Jeremiah. Come on. From the way that the guy talks, we can tell that, come on, when it comes to anything that is business related, or anything that needs sense and reasoning, no, let's take him away from that. So we asked them, even not just Jeremiah, all of them, how did they become billionaires? Where did they get the money? How did they make the billions? How did they afford the private jets, the luxurious lifestyles? If we can put pressure on the IRS, if we can get responsible government authorities to start investigating the finances of these churches, do you think that these people will not be found into some shady things? Do you think? Do you think that so many politicians will go down with them? Do you think? Do you wonder why they are protected? Why their church can never be touched? Church can never be investigated. Their finances can never be investigated. Do you know why? The big players involved also in this entire syndicate. The billionaires of nowadays that just woke up one day. They failed in school. They saw an opportunity in this religion called Christianity, and they saw a Bible. They weaponized it. They mounted a pulpit. They started lying. They started promising. They started manipulating. They started deceiving. They started robbing, stealing. Some of them even raping, abducting kids. And at the end of the day, all that they wanted was to take money from someone. And they've been doing that. They keep on doing it. And eventually they woke up billionaires. I'm a billionaire. Okay, let me catch you out of the next episode of the Enlightenment series. This is just a teaser. You have not heard anything yet. Put on your seatbelt and get ready for some shaking. And let's see how far we can go with this. But all I want is for you to be enlightened, for you to know the truth. Nothing else but the truth of what's happening behind the scenes. Things never told. You'll be hearing it for the first time from Mr. Pull the Trigger. With that being said, I'm out.